Welcome to the From the 108 podcast, starring the drunk uncles of White Sox Twitter. He's a Twitter like whore, an Instagram thirst trap, and your grandma's guilty pleasure. Beef loaf. A West Coast attitude in a decidedly Midwest body, My Sock Summer. And your host. He's sharing obscure music thoughts to give you time to hit the bathroom. Teresa E.
Thank you, Quarnsey, and welcome to the From the 108 podcast. Get ready for some baseball, beer, and bullshit. Remember the drinking rules. If Beef Loaf says allegedly, or that he wrote a blog about that, you drink. If My Sock Summer doesn't know a player or mentions his time on the West Coast, you drink. If I swear or say here's the thing, you drink. And if James Fox mentions the international draft or expanded playoffs, you drink.
Yes.
Hey, fellas, how you doing?
Absolutely fucking terrific.
I want to know what you guys are drinking.
Oh, baby.
Man, I'm going old school with the easy.
I went
I
old
like
school.
that one. I like that.
Gotta switch it up. Beef, what are you drinking, man?
You know what? I'm going around the world on the Goose Island. We were doing the 108 Tourney post-game show. I was drinking a little Green Line. And Green Line is absolutely delicious, one of my favorites. And right now I'm getting into the Next Coast IPA, which is my favorite of the Goose Island beers. So I've also got some 312 back here, got some Sox Ale back here. I'm spraying all fields for this show. Very excited about it.
Sexy.
I love it. MSS, what do you got?
Right now, I'm drinking the Blackberry Smash. I've carried that over from the pregame show or the postgame or tourney, whatever. That's a Blackberry Smash. It's a canned cocktail from our good friends at Goose Island. And after that, I'll be drinking the Whiskey Sour, which is also
man.
I figured you guys would be drinking beer. I didn't have any of my solos cold, so I needed to go with the mixed drinks for tonight. They hit hard and fast, so be ready for some hot ass takes.
I'm ready for that second ad read. That's what's going to be exciting.
We're going old school, baby. No second recorded ad read. We're going live ad read.
You might be begging for the submarine ad read by then. You know, you never know.
Submarine? Did we get a new sponsor, Mr. Subs? Yeah.
Oh man, M&R Sub. I've got the laser brain right now.
Nice.
That's what I just finished up while we were listening to the intro music. But now I just opened a delicious solo. Got to go solo.
Oh.
We're gonna go a long show. You know, we gotta go. We did a show already. We're gonna do another one. We gotta.
We came too quick.
Don't come too quick. That's right.
Beast, how you doing tonight, buddy?
I'm good. You know, I was thinking about it. We've done a couple 108 Tourney post-game shows now, and people are really, we're halfway into the first round. People are getting into the spirit, and people get into the spirit all different ways. And Bonita Stakey in particular, she does enjoy the 108 Tourney, but she gets in the spirit different way than the rest of you because she's not really a Twitter user. So what she's been doing is she's been taking these leftover cans of Goose Island and turning them into craft projects. And so you can see I have a crown on my head is one thing that I've been using. And I had this in the Sunday soak, and I've taken a couple of pictures with it. And this is the Goose gun. So if we got a hot take, some shooting going on in the show for someone's take, I could bring the gun out and fire back at them. So just be careful about that. I mean, but look at this. She one night she just took empty cans. We were probably doing a show, and she took the empty cans out of here, and then she made this thing. And she
so it's hard. It's hard to see, but the tabs. What's hanging down? Those are the tabs.
The tabs. Yeah, the tabs are connected. Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. The tabs are connected here. So that's just kind of like, yeah. And then I can line this baby up and boom,
That crown.
I may use it during the show.
That crown is great, and nothing like getting crowned for losing in the first round of the tourney.
That's how you know your daughter loves you. Even when you're a huge loser, your daughter even comes through with the crown for you. Daddy, it's okay. I mean, that's what I needed. I was crying like a baby. You saw my video this morning. You saw how somber I was in the morning. It looked so sad.
You did.
But what's funny is you crying always brings me great joy. It has since we were kids. It hasn't stopped today. My Sock Summer. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, and I unlike Loaf won yesterday, so I am in a great mood. Had a great day. Went to Peppa Pig Land, Playland up there at the Woodfield Mall. I hate the suburbs. I don't like them. I don't like going to the north side. Definitely don't like going to the suburbs up north. I don't know why. I prefer Orland. Orland is okay. It's easy and it's dirty enough that I'm like, okay, yeah, I can get with this. I don't like going up there. There's a lot of construction. It's just, it's too much. So anyway, we went up there, Peppa Pig Land, fantabulous. But tonight, my daughters, we had been taking bass and they're getting older. So now bass has become like playtime and they're just like fucking around. And they're like, all right, got to cut this shit out. So now it's 5-minute showers. So I give them a shower, real quick, in and out. Now, we have an upstairs bathroom that my wife had been using for a couple years. Okay. And she had been doing that. And then she decided she didn't want to be in there anymore. It's not the best shower. I get it. We got to get it done, which is we're in talks. And we're going to get that.
Negotiations.
Yeah. No, it's just talking with somebody to come in and do it. It's hard for bathroom remodel when there's.
Yeah, but you're a cheap prick. Is what I was pointing out. You're a cheap motherfucker. Oh, no. So you're negotiating the price. You're trying to you're trying to hand off some Beanie Baby action for a reduced rate. I know you, motherfucker. Don't lie.
No. There is money set aside for this. There is legit money sitting there ready to go. It wasn't from me, so
it's fine.
So anyway, I get it. She doesn't want to be up there. So she's been using my shower for or the downstairs shower for the last 8 or 9 months. And so I'm giving my daughter a shower tonight. We're just going through everything. And I look down and then the water's just backing up, right? Yeah. And I'm like,
I know what that is.
In the 2 years that I was down there taking a shower, no drain problems. Because who uses the little trap? This guy, all the time, trap, right?
Trap guy, big trap.
And I think what's happening is that when my wife doesn't wash her hair, she doesn't put the trap down, but hair still gets down there and goes right into the drain.
There's no question.
Yeah. Now, for years, my dad and Loaf have been telling me, buddy, you got to chamber some shit and not say things all the time, right? You can't just say something. So I am fighting back so hard to be like, I have to go buy Drano because you fucking clogged the drain. And it didn't happen for 2 years when you weren't using it. But I've been fighting it back for at least 3 days. So I was like, for 2 weeks, I had to stop. I had to stop fucking, so I had to talk about it tonight because it was just building me up. I'm reading these fucking answers and it's pissing me off. So anyway, I had to get it out. So I just had to say it here. So I'm probably going to use banter every so often to things that I should.
I like this. I like this.
And I'm just going to lay it out to everybody. And, that's it. It is. That's what it was.
My Slack summer, you achieved step one, in my opinion. Okay. Yeah. Step one is shutting the fuck up. Okay. Everyone out there, let me share this with everyone in the comments, everyone who listens to this show. All of you out there, pretty much. Treasy and I know this lesson really well. And it has nothing to do with being married. It's just a general lesson about living and growing up. And we grew up in kind of a tough neighborhood. Bridgeport was not as as nice as it is now. It was fucked up.
Maria's was different.
That's Latin Kings everywhere. There's a lot of value to shutting the fuck up. A lot more than people actually do. Okay. So you got that part down. Just shut the fuck up. Okay. The second part is you got to let it go completely though. Because it's not a big deal. If it was a big deal, I get it. This is something you should bring up. What you could do, okay, and you're not ready for this yet because you don't have the skills built up for this. But Treasy and I could probably. I'm not even sure Treasy could either. He's a smart ass. But I could do this. So if this problem happened in my house, what I would do is I'd just fix the problem, and I'd tell my wife, I went and I did something. I wanted to clear your thing up, help you out there, and then that's nice of you. Don't bring up about how. She fucked it up. That's irrelevant. It wasn't a problem. Don't even bring that up. That has nothing to do with nothing. All you did was you helped fix the problem, and then you get the fuck out of the way. And that's it. You kind of said your piece because they know they did whatever the fuck it is, and you don't need to tell them. You don't need to tell them.
Right.
And if they don't, you're right. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
I need to start listening more.
Listening and shutting up. That's a good life plan just in general. I'm just sharing this with all of you. I know most of you won't listen because you think I'm an idiot, but I've gotten a long way by shutting the fuck up a lot.
Beef, I know myself. I'm going to have to shut the fuck up next week when I'm on vacation with MSS and his wife. And I'm going to be so tempted to go, man, Mama Summer, you should listen to the podcast. I think you would enjoy especially the first 15 minutes of the last episode. It was really hard-hitting stuff.
You're gonna.
We
you're
were wearing
gonna say
green
that?
for St. Patrick's Day and everything.
Yeah.
You are
No,
a
I'm saying
motherfucker. You would do
this
that
is
too.
what I have to keep myself from saying.
Oh, from saying, yeah.
Yeah, this is
Hey,
what I
you
won't
can't- you
say.
don't wanna-
This
You don't
is
want
what I
to
won't
alienate
say.
your one friend on that trip, so you just
That's true.
Speaking of which, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I was Beef. I was meeting you for dinner the other night, and but that day at work, I don't know if they got like the fancy coffee machine that makes like an espresso for you, you know, and it makes all these other drinks too. And so I walk up to it. I do not fucking touch this thing. I'm not even like a foot from it yet, and it just starts making noise. And then because it makes like chocolate milk or like hot chocolate too, and like it just starts fucking shooting chocolate out of it, like just like straight up Rand Peltzer Gremlins shit. And I'm just like, at this point in the day, there's no fucking chance I get home and change and get to dinner on time. So I'm like, I'm gonna have to look like I just came from like a very strange porn film. Like that's like there's there's like I'm like backing up and just hoping that it doesn't look like I shit my front. Like I didn't know what to do in this situation. And like the other thing is like I'm like standing back like watching this happen, and all I can think is like someone I work with is gonna walk by and be like, what the fuck did this guy do? What a fucking idiot. He made this machine explode shit all over the place. Like how did he do this? What a moron.
But you're blamed. If anyone saw you, even in the vicinity, as things are pouring out of there, it's your fault. In an office, 100% of the time. Anywhere in a room where coworkers congregate, if some shit's going wrong and you're the closest one to it when everyone sees, you did it, even if you didn't touch it.
And normally my motive, what I would do in that situation, I would just walk away. This is how much I love coffee. I waited this out. And then made a coffee from this machine that might explode at any second.
I like that you went back in though.
I went right back in.
It's like it's like spitting chocolate. I might look like I shit myself. You know what? I'm gonna give it another chance.
You could have walked
like
to Starbucks or anywhere. Nope. Oh, right here.
No. Beef,
It's
it's way worse than that.
Boyfriend that keeps bringing back crazy chick.
It's way worse than that. I could have just went to another floor and got it. The same thing.
Didn't even want to walk.
Isn't that the best though? Like, is your company the same that has like? Did they have different stuff on different floors though? Like, can you get like cherry Coke on one floor but not on the other?
So when we used to be fully in the office, there was different coffee machines on kind of different places, and they used to have a cold brew like tap.
A tap?
Yeah, there was nitro.
That's nice.
Yeah. We don't have that shit anymore because like 8 people come into the office now, so like it's not worth doing. But they do have
like, here's
they do have a machine that shoots chocolate out of it at 150 miles per hour, which is pretty cool.
Get a baseball bat and start hitting it.
I was gonna say, why don't you try to start mouthing it?
You can play right. That's what I said. He's like, what am I supposed to do? You're just
dude. If you saw it, like, no, man,
not happening.
I can't wait till somebody freeze frames that, and that's all over the internet tomorrow for the 108 tourney.
You're doing
my mouth the gape with the 108ing right below my chin. It's gonna be wonderful. Looking forward to it, Yumper. I know you're already scarred.
You want to pay some bills, buddy?
Let's do it. Baseball is back, baby. And what's almost as important as the actual game? The pregame. And there's no better place to pregame than 3434 South Halstead, your friendly neighborhood Wings and Rings, located in the heart of Bridgeport. Wings and Rings knows the deal. Get you fed and watered before you go to the game. With a full menu and a full bar, Wings and Rings is forever the right call before the game. Looking for a place to watch the tournament? Wings and Rings has you covered. With nearly 425 screens, you'll never miss a moment during the madness. So swing by, call, or order online. Wings and Rings is there for you. 773-579-9464 or online at wingsandrings.com.
Oh, yeah.
How fucking sexy is that? Live.
That was great. How fucking sexy is this?
I mean,
Hell
We got
yeah!
a
Look at that
special
shit,
guest
man.
tonight.
Baby.
He's the senior editor and podcast co-host for Future Sox, and he was recently edged out of the 108 tourney by My Sox Summer. He is our good friend, James Fox. James, welcome to the show, man. How you doing tonight?
Great, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah,
What do you-
thanks for
what do
coming
you-
through, buddy?
What are you drinking over there? I see you got
I have
something.
I have a Dos Equis.
Nice.
Oh,
Nice.
Good choice.
I feel that as a sign of respect. He came to hang with the two Mexican brothers. He's drinking Dos Equis.
Hitting the Dos
feel-
Equis. I like that, man.
I feel that. So, fellas, what do you say we get into a little bit of that? What do you call it? Baseball talk.
Oh, yeah.
Love it, baby. Love it.
And yeah, My Sox Summer. I'm bringing back the old graphics for some of this.
Did
Man.
I give you a
I
new
got
graphic?
new stuff.
That,
I got
that
new
baseball.
graphics.
That
I got
baseball
new
almost looks
graphics.
like Slobulous. It looks a little bit like Slobulous.
I got new graphics, but I love those old ones. Yeah, so there's a Mad Ball that was a baseball.
It's a baseball. I know.
Yeah,
That's
that's
not
what
Slobulous.
that
I
is.
like Slobulous because he has the one eye. That's
Flobulous is the best Mad Ball. We all know this. That's not
a
a
great Mad Ball.
All right,
There's
let's fight.
Half our audience is Googling Mad Balls. Fuck our Mad Balls.
Mad Ball sounds like a disease.
All 7 of you are Googling that right now.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a couple of these recent signings. We got some new acquisitions in the house. First up, we want to talk about Joe Kelly. We brought in Joe Kelly. James, what are your thoughts on bringing in Joe Kelly to be yet another reliever on this team?
So, I mean, I like the player. Obviously, I feel like we're going to get into all the signings. I guess I like all of them if there's more stuff coming. Like, I don't like them if that's it, though, like at all. You know, because like, as people have seen, like, I mean, $30 million on utility players and relievers is fine if you also, like, you know, get your needs fixed. If they don't, it's kind of strange. So I don't know how delayed Joe Kelly's going to be. It kind of just seems like they're just being super cautious. I like him though. Like he's, you know, it's over 10 Ks per 9. That's kind of, you know, I don't know if that's like the Tepera replacement. And then because Graveman's probably the 8th inning right-handed guy. You know, I know that was like well before the lockout. Everybody kind of forgot, but their bullpen should be really, really good again. You know, and I don't think Craig Kimbrel will be part of it. So I get it. I mean, I think Tony and Han get along because they both like spending money on relievers, I think. So
it's like being a fishing buddy, except their hobby is let's buy some relievers together. Let's do it.
With Jerry's money.
Surprised they haven't gotten more catchers. Like I feel like catchers is a hobby too.
Oh, they got a lot of catchers. They're just all not very good.
Well, Grandal's great, and then the other one's not so good. Yeah.
Well, I saw
That's what I meant.
they grabbed some guy. It was like Nick Chufo or something.
Yeah,
and like I messaged Beef and I was like, I have no idea who this guy is. He's the second best catcher on the team though.
Exactly. He's your favorite to be the backup.
He's he's like I think he's a defender. Yeah.
Straight up defender. My Sox Summer, what'd you think of that signing?
What I thought, I went and looked at numbers and I went and did all that shit. And I feel like immediately I was worried about the injury because they're talking about that. And then yesterday he told everybody it's fine and he's going to be okay. And he said, we'll be fine is what he said. So he's got attitude. I like his swag. I like he's going to fit right in with Hendricks. And I think he is going to be the super setup guy that they were looking for in a Kimbrel versus like what they got with Kimbrel. Like Kimbrel like couldn't pivot outside of this 9th inning thing, like in his head, whatever. But I think Joe can go in the 7th, the 6th, the 7th, and come in and like start cleaning up. And we're gonna need that guy because we're gonna have some couple guys that are pitching that aren't gonna be able to go, into the 6th, into the 7th. I don't think it's gonna happen. Kopech definitely won't. And it'll be nice to throw like a Joe Kelly in there right after that, and get him one, and then get another one. Then bring in another reliever. Like just keep opening bottles of wine. It's fine. Like we have. Like there's some good vintages in there, and it'll be fine. So yeah, I'm impressed with that one. That was I looked at it and I was like, okay, I'm okay with this. I'm happy and I'm okay with it.
Beef, how about you? I feel like you feel differently.
Yeah, I'm not so in. Like I like Joe Kelly. As James said, I like Joe Kelly in general. Okay, I like the idea of Joe Kelly. He's got over 10 strikeouts per 9. He's got a high ground ball rate, which plays really well in our ballpark. That's kind of what you're looking for: right-handed pitcher, high ground ball rate, high strikeout rate. A couple issues I have. The pricing seemed high to me when it's happened, and then right behind that, I think it was Colin McHugh signed like almost the next day for 2 and 10. Right, so he came in underneath. And it's a comparable pitcher, not exactly the same style necessarily, whatever. The other issue I had is not specifically this injury, but just in general. And since 2016, when Joe Kelly became a reliever, he's only thrown 60 innings or more one season. And you'll say, okay, well, the goofy 2020 COVID season's in there too, but he only threw 10 innings that season. So even if you extrapolate that, it doesn't get you to 60. So the issue here I have is just kind of the durability. Is he going to be available for all this stuff? Now, he has been available in the playoffs. He's got 40 appearances in the playoffs. And so maybe part of the approach here is just, look, don't worry about, maxing out the value in the player. What we want is we want a guy who's going to be available enough during a long summer. And then when we get to October, a guy who's got experience, a guy who's got a chance to perform at that point. So maybe what we're looking at here is kind of the finishing pieces, but they're different finishing pieces than you normally think about. Like James was talking in the open. You want to like smash it with like a big player that serves a huge need. And what this to me is like helping out the edges. It's like it's pushing. It's like we want to use Jose Ruiz less. We want to use Matt Foster less. It's pushing the next guy down the roster. So we use those guys less and we use this guy more. So I thought it was expensive to do this, and I'm a little apprehensive, but in general, I like the player. Teresa, what about you, baby?
So the injury, it gives me a little pause. So it's got Calvin Herrera vibes to me, right? It's like, this is an experienced guy. He's done the things that we want people to do, but he's all fucked up. Oh, we're going to still bring him in and we're going to pay him like he's not hurt.
Right.
And then, but we've seen a similar injury before on this team, and the guy struggled to come back from it, which is Aaron Bummer had a similar like nerve injury where like, I don't know how you diagnose if a guy's ready to come back from that. Like it just seems like it's the thing where you hear the same thing of I'm ready to go whenever. And then you start putting some stress on that arm, and then you're all of a sudden not ready to go. Right. And so that's kind of my concern with this is like, when do we see Joe Kelly? Because as soon as we see Joe Kelly, we stop seeing Jose Ruiz, which is in my book,
he might
probably
still be in the periphery. He might join us for a brewski up in the right.
That's true. That's true. but like, so that's a big leap, right? If you're saying like that's the difference that you're going to have there. And especially if they get rid of Kimbrel, then really, when is this guy going to be here? Because then you're starting to really look at the innings that My Sock Summer was referring to, which is the 6th and the 7th, right? And then you're saying like, okay, well, now I'm going to start pressing on other guys because this guy's not ready yet. But don't worry, he's going to be ready for the playoffs where he's been fairly mediocre. So like, I just don't see.
We take it after last year.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Mediocre.
I don't see like why this needed to be the move. Like why this was like something that like they spent time to make sure that they nailed this down. At the end of the day, it's fine. Like if Joe Kelly is healthy and he pitches for us this year, he pitches that beef 40 innings and then 10 innings in the playoffs. I'm more than happy with that. Right. That's huge. I'm fine with it at that point.
Yeah.
I'm just worried that it's going to be July and we're going to be saying like, don't worry, Joe Kelly's going to be back soon, like from his second stint on the IL, and this is like an acquisition. So don't even worry about getting somebody. Like that's what I'm worried about.
You don't like PR spin? I like PR
path.
Yeah.
Well, I love the PR spin because we get to talk about it and go like, can you believe this guy said this?
I mean, stylistically, Joe Kelly's going to be fun, though. Like, he's kind of a pain in the ass, and he's a shit talker. Like, we're going to love it when we're at the game. Like, yeah, fuck yeah, Joe's coming in, and when he gets a big strikeout, we'll all go nuts. Like, so that part is really good for us. But, yeah, I got those same concerns as you, Treasy, just like the durability long-term. And, like, yeah, I mean, if it works out, I'm sure he'll be great.
My favorite thing about Joe Kelly is when he threw a changeup like through his window at his house. Did you see that?
Yeah.
Video, it was like,
He's got the big like pitching net, and
like
totally he's like Nuke LaLoosh.
Yeah.
Just throwing it.
It's like
that was funny.
Did they tell you guys? Oh, I'm sorry, Treasy.
I was just gonna say it was funny because Quincy, when they signed him, she was like, they signed the guy who threw through his window. They signed that guy.
Yeah.
It's like when they said, did you guys say like the broadside of a barn? Like you couldn't hit the broadside of a barn? Did they say that?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know. You know, like they said that in Sterling. And
we've never seen a barn,
Sterling,
but we just
like,
believed it.
But you knew what it was. You're just like, it seems like it's probably pretty big. Like they can't hit the side of the McCormick place. That's what they probably should have said for you.
That's right.
The long side of McCormick place.
All right. So the next guy up that we got to talk about is, what we were all waiting for, second baseman. Josh Harrison. Josh Harrison joins the team. James, what did you think about that signing?
Another fun guy that I like rooting for. So I was like, I wasn't the big, I didn't think second base was their biggest need, to be honest. Like, I don't really care. I want them to fix right field though. So, if you told me they got a real right fielder and then they signed Josh Harrison, like, awesome. Like, I'll watch. I like Josh Harrison.
Yeah. Same.
But if it's Josh Harrison and then you're going to play Leury and Engel in right field, like that's a big problem, So it's just because he's not that good. $5.5 million is fine. We're all going to have fun watching him because he's hilarious and he's fine. He's fine. He's a decent baseball player. But I think a lot of people were just expecting more, myself included, probably the three of you too. And it's not over yet. Like they could do more. Like that could easily happen. It's just underwhelming.
Yeah, no doubt. Like the way that I felt about it when I saw that was like, we had Cesar Hernandez here and we chose not to keep him. And then we've got someone very similar, someone who's going to put the bat on the ball more, but is not going to get on base as much. Like, so it's a different style of player. I think people are going to really like Josh Harrison. Like, I think that he's the kind of guy that Sox fans love, makes a lot of contact, is like, as you said, he's a fun guy. He's exciting to watch. Like, I think fans will like him, but it just feels to me like a misread of the market if you decided not to keep Hernandez and then you go, okay, I'm going to get something kind of the same for actually a little more money because of the way that this contract is structured. So even though it's 5.5, I think it's
7.
There's like at least a buyout next year.
Guaranteed 7, I think.
Yeah. So that's weird to me. But overall, like in a vacuum, I would be like, it's cool. I like Josh Harrison. I like Josh Harrison. I'll have him on the team. My Sox summer, what'd you think?
He has a positive WAR and a decent career WAR, which I was like, all right, this seems fine. They're also positive. Like, as long as it's not negative, I'm like, this is probably good. I find it frustrating that, again, it's a defensive replacement. It's not an offensive player. Like, he just doesn't have any offensive numbers. He does have 60 RBI. Or he had 60 RBIs last year. That would have put him into the 4th best RBI guy on the Sox last year, which I think says more about the Sox than it does about him. Because Luis Garcia had 6 less RBIs than him. So it's not what we were looking for. And this is where I get a little bit frustrated. And I feel like James is going to agree here is we didn't get the bat. We wanted a bat and we didn't get a bat yet. In these positions, I was resigned to the fact that we were only going to get one good person at second and right field, and it seems like right field's going to be a platoon, and Harrison's who we're getting at second. So I don't know. It's a bummer. I wish it would have been something more, but he'll be fine, right? He'll be fine, and maybe the Sox are just banking on their stars to pick up and start hitting more home runs, and saying we're not going to need that as much because Aloy's going to do this. Robert's going to do this. Anderson's going to do this. And, whatever. But, what I was looking for? Andrew
Vaughn will take a step forward.
Going forward. Yeah. Moncada. All these guys start keep getting more homers and more RBIs. And I was looking at these, some other numbers and whatnot. And Jose Abreu, my God. The guy had 12 fucking RBIs last year. He's like probably 42, and we just don't know it. It's still ripping through.
Just because he ate his passport,
baseball.
don't fake his age, my sock summer. Just
My
because the man ate his
God.
passport, don't
Like,
go
just
there. Right?
how amazing is that to have almost double the next guy on your RBIs? You know, like it's just amazing. So shout out, Jose Abreu.
Beef, what'd you think, man?
Well, first off, I just want to remind you guys, I wrote a blog about this, kind of. It was on socksmachine.com, and I predicted this. He was going to be, yeah, exactly. Drink up, everyone. I wrote a blog about this. I predicted Josh Harrison would be on the White Sox, and I thought kind of what they were going to do at second base. My entire approach, I think the other guy I had was Jonathan VR, so not that far off from a Lurie. So Lurie and Josh Harrison, I thought there'd be like a combo situation with two guys. And the reason why I think that is because right now, the White Sox don't have a lot of depth in the minor leagues, but they do have two guys who I could see coming up and playing second base kind of in the short term, and that's Gilbert Sanchez and Jose Rodriguez. Now, I don't know if they're going to trade or what happens this year or who makes a step or whatever, but they seem to have some redundancy there. And even if you figure in someone like Romy Gonzalez, it's like, okay, you have some options potentially at this position as you kind of go forward. So it's not a long-term need. You don't need to kind of put someone in there on a 5-year deal that was expensive. You might have some stuff coming from up from the minors. One thing that I was telling Teresi, I think this is just push Danny Mendick off the roster situation. Just don't play Danny Mendick. I like Danny Mendick, as you know, he came up and showed up nice in the COVID season, and actually even at the end of the 2019 season. He looked pretty good at the end. They didn't play him as much as they probably should have, like fucking throwaway season. And it's like, play this guy a little more. And then he looked decent in 2020. And then last year, he just looked overmatched. It's just like, he's a nice guy to have in the 40-man as like break glass in case of, So I looked up last year's WRC plus. Harrison was 103, so that's slightly above average. Danny Mendick was 68, so absolutely horrendous. I went to Steamer projections for 2022, and it's got Harrison at a 712 OPS and a 97 WRC plus, and Mendick at a 668 OPS and an 85 WRC plus. So it doesn't feel like as big of an upgrade, as it looks like in real life last year. Now, Teresa, you brought up the Cesar Hernandez, so I wanted to look at that too because we had talked about it a little bit. So with the bat, Cesar Hernandez is projected via Steamer to have a 730 OPS and WRC plus a 96. So basically the same hitter as Harrison, but the distribution is a little different, right? He's going to get on base more than Harrison. The only another main difference is he'll only be 32. Harrison will be 35 during the middle of the season. But where it breaks down, I had to dig in a little bit to figure this out and figure out why did they go with Harrison? Because right, they could have just kept Cesar for the $6 million instead of spending. When you dig into his defensive numbers, Josh Harrison was terrific on defense last year at second base. Absolutely outstanding. He was 5th in the major leagues in outs above average at 8. And where he shines is going to his right, so going up the middle.
That's huge.
So throwing hand side. So for
it's huge. It's huge when you don't shift. It's huge when you don't shift.
Exactly. So a team that stunk last year on defense, like I could see where they're trying to make the incremental upgrades on defense, right? There's guys you can't, like Tim Anderson's an average defender at short. There's nothing to do about that. He just is what he is, right? If he gets a little bit better, great, but you can't like replace Tim Anderson. Here's a spot where you could add a guy and add some defense. And so I think that was kind of the approach here. And so I think the pricing maybe is a little too, I was just expecting like a $1 or $2 million signing for him. But for this, I mean, this is not, it's almost no difference. It's almost zero, right? So I like the Harrison signing. I like adding a guy who's a good defender, can go up the middle a little bit and make some contact. This is a team that strikes out a lot. It's nothing wrong with adding a little contact to the squad.
Beef, I appreciate your analysis as always.
Thank you,
let's just be real here. What happened was Rick Hahn saw one too many people saying that Jake Berger should play second base, and he was like, just fucking sign somebody, guys. We got to get somebody in here.
Anyone. It's like Brian Doyle Murray in Christmas Vacation.
Give me
someone.
It's not on the phone.
Give me someone while I'm waiting.
You saw that video of Jake just throwing the balls, who knows where. And it's like, that looks good, but I don't know what he's hitting, so maybe we should sign somebody. It might be good.
Well, Hahn made it a huge point, like after they re-signed Leury to all of the beat writers, like, nope, it's a utility role, like he's not the second baseman, and everybody's like, yeah, right, he's starting at second, But like, so before the lockout, we had James Fegan on the Future Sox pod, and he said, like, prior to Eduardo Escobar signing with the Mets, they had intel at the Athletic to the point where like he started writing that he was going to sign with the Sox.
Oh, wow.
Damn.
And then he only took like two at 25, I think, for the Mets or something.
Yes, yeah.
So, you know, once he like went away, then it was kind of like, oh yeah, like they'll add a second baseman like imminently here. But then, you know, you kind of look at the free agent list and it was like, you know, and then,
That's bad.
you know, they obviously waited and they ended up with Harrison. But so, yeah, I mean, I guess if that was their plan, they had to like pivot. I don't know.
Yeah, I think there wasn't much of a pivot, right? I mean, like that's kind of like you look at even when Harrison went, I think like Donovan Solano signed like the next day.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
That's
why
it.
is that guy even getting a major league deal?
Brad
Like
Miller got
Escobar-
a deal right after that.
I mean,
like,
Escobar has a ton of power, though. That's the I
Yes.
guess
Yeah.
like, that's like one major gripe for me. And obviously, like general managers lie, and Rick Hahn does all the time. Like we've seen it, but like, correct me if I'm wrong. But at the end of the season press conference, they said like essentially like we need left-handed hitting and we need to hit the ball in the air. Like we have to hit for power, which is something like all of us have said. Like duh, right? And then
let's go. Let's do it.
And then they added Josh Harrison and Larry Garcia to the offense. I mean, like, you know, so they're just banking on their own guys hitting the ball in the air instead of on the ground, I think. I don't know. It's just, it doesn't really make any sense to me.
It is wild. You're right. And they didn't add any left-handed hitters. I mean, like, I'm surprised they haven't at least added a nominal left-handed bat to this roster. Like,
Well,
just
Beef,
someone who's thinking hit some home runs, you know, like
that's part of the Hernandez thing though, right? Like not
Yeah,
keeping
he's a switch
Hernandez and then taking Harrison. Hernandez is a switch hitter. So, and last year he showed power out of nowhere. And obviously he's had all this time to juice while they weren't testing. So he could be still jacking the ball when we come back. But like,
good call.
but yeah, so you didn't keep that left-handed guy, switch hitting guy. And now you're also going, okay, we're going to go right-handed kind of slap hitter. You're basically saying like, kind of what Nick Madrigal was.
Yeah, seemingly. I mean, because it's the same type of profile. He doesn't walk either. So,
Right.
but he might. I think
Right.
I think he's a better defender than Madrigal is, though.
Yeah, probably a
yeah,
better
I agree.
defender. Probably slightly. I don't even know
Not as
how
much
much
contact.
we haven't
I mean,
seen.
Madrigal's extreme contact.
He's not going to get hurt like running bases. Or, you know,
Yeah, I was gonna say he seems to be healthier.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's actually kind of funny you bring that up, but it's like he's proven, right? He's proven that he's not going to be completely broken all the time, and Madrigal has yet to prove that. So, you know, there's sometimes you want to just take the assurance that you know of the empirical data that hey, this guy doesn't get hurt all the time. We'll take him. You know,
Tony's definitely hitting Harrison second on opening day, by the way.
Somebody tweeted that, and someone was mad right away. They're like, "Don't you put this evil on me?" But he is. No, you're right, because Tim Anderson's suspended, from what I heard. Right. So yes, he is going to hit second on opening day, 100%. I agree with you. That'd be terrible. He's going to have 4 ground outs in the short.
Well, thanks everyone. Have a good night.
Right field too, yeah.
Good night.
100%.
Killed. My internet's gonna go down. It's gonna be a horrible night now. Thanks.
So I want to talk about this last signing, and I think that this one.
It's another Beef Loaf signing.
It is a beef, and me and Beef are kind of in the same camp on this. We had a video we did not too long ago about pitching depth, and
you and White Sox Dave, right?
We talked about a couple guys that were similar, and that we kind of said like this is worth taking a chance on if you're gonna go the route of back of the bullpen and then maybe like minor league signings to be what you're going to use if you get into a situation where someone's hurt or Dallas Keuchel continues to be what he was last year. What are you going to do, and how are you going to fill those gaps in when you have the 26-man roster pretty filled, especially at pitcher? You have a starting 5. Like you're not getting around your starting 5. So we were trying to think through things, and one of the things we were thinking through is like a couple of these guys. Mine was Carlos Martinez, who's now actually been signed as well. And Beef, you had mentioned Vince Velasquez, and like Velasquez and Martinez have one thing in common, and that is they are guys who have a bunch of pitches, but
most of them bad.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And they try to pitch them all, and then over the years, like if you go look at like Velasquez's pitch mix, like the 4-seamer is always front and center. That's like 50% of his pitches. The other 50% change every year, and it's a mix of these four. There's like years where he just stopped throwing a changeup for no apparent reason. It didn't make him better, and there's no consistency in it. And so I'm wondering, is this something where Ethan Katz looked at him and he's like, okay, look, this guy has his four seamers fine. It's not good. It's just fine. And then he's got a couple high whiff rate pitches in his slider and his changeup. Let's just tell him, this is all you get to throw. You're only coming in a little bit. These are the pitches you're throwing, and let's hone those pitches. That's the way that I see this signing of like, I want to believe that Ethan Katz saw this and said, like, I can kind of whittle this down to a usable pitcher. And I'm wondering what you guys think. James, where are you at with Velasquez?
So, I mean, similar, like I'm going to trust Ethan Katz. I think they should get a guy for Ethan Katz like every year. My only
100% agree.
100%. My only gripe is that I wish he was like seemed like more of an extra guy, right? Like, because I don't think their rotation's good enough. Just because, like, I don't know how you trust Dallas Keuchel, and I love Kopech, but it's like 130 innings tops, right?
Right.
For a title contender. So that's why I think like a guy like Sean Manaea makes sense. But then if you also have Velasquez, like that's fine. Like
that's great because
I don't want Velasquez to be starter number 6 like that. He better not be the next guy that like starts the game. Like if somebody gets hurt, But I like the idea because it's something made him a top prospect, right? He wasn't a top 50 prospect in baseball because all of his pitches sucked.
Right.
So like you're right. Like
they mostly do. Like
I'm sure Katz will figure out like, okay, whatever, like we really like his slider and he's going to throw it a ton, like whatever. So I do think it's probably like a Ronaldo Lopez role where they're both like long guys because it seems like starters aren't going to go very long. So
no, especially with short spring training,
like extended long guys. But I mean, honestly, like with a big league deal, like he's going to be on the team.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, like and Lopez is out of options too, right? Like, I mean, so I think that those two guys are at the back of the bullpen. That's why a Joe Kelly signing just sends Jose Ruiz right out the door. Assuming
because Ruiz is out of options too.
Exactly. Yeah. So he's gonna get DFA'd. I mean, you can maneuver that a little bit at the beginning because you've got Kelly on the IL, and you can do that. But like Jose Ruiz is not long for this the staff unless someone gets hurt or unless something goes sideways. Beef, what'd you think about it, man?
Yeah, so I was on the same track as you, Teresi, and what James said is exactly right. People are and I get the caution. People are looking at it like, man, we're a contending team. Why are we doing this? But we should be doing a move like this, maybe 2 moves like this, maybe one on the major league roster, one in the minor leagues, and let Ethan Katz do his work. And he does work very well, and we've seen it already with Giolito and then with Cease, with guys who are extremely athletic. And that's what Velasquez is too, right? He's really athletic, and much like Cease, control issues, right? Now, his control issues are throwing the shit in the middle of the plate and letting people smash the hell out of it. Cease's we're throwing him over the backstop. So these are 2 different types. But regardless, that's the situation. Teresa, you're talking about cutting on the pitches. So I pulled Baseball Savant. This was even before we did the Sox machine plan, but I pulled it again for today. So in 2021 and 2020, his 2 most effective pitches by weighted on base average are his curveball and his sinker. So I don't know that those are the putaways because a 4-seamer is kind of like the but I don't know if
his curveball is one of his best pitches in terms of people getting on base and everything, but like no one misses it. It's either out of the zone or they fucking hit it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not sure that those are the pitches you just go with, like blindly looking at it. It could be a usage situation or whatever, but I agree with the idea of just like trimming the whole fucking thing down and working the body into a way like you're athletic. Whatever the fuck you're doing is wrong. Let's work on this and make sure we can get the control pinpointed. So I really like the signing. I like signings like this because they're so low risk. If we get into the season and we're a month or 2 in and he's getting blasted, just fucking cut him. $3 million. Who gives a shit? Get him out of here. But I agree with James. I would like it a lot more if they added one more capable starter to this group. Because as My Sox Summer mentioned, and just leave Velasquez as long, man. And My Sox Summer mentioned, you're going to have both Keuchel and Kopech as guys who aren't going to go deep into games. One, because he's probably not good, or you don't want to because you don't want his option to vest. And then Kopech, you're just trying to control the innings. So you've got a lot of extra innings to throw. I don't mind the idea of a Reynaldo Lopez and Vince Velasquez being able to go multiple innings there kind of as dual longmen. But let's not have them be the next guy up, like James is saying. Let's not have Vince Velasquez like starting a doubleheader like early in the season because
Right.
there's no one else here. Like that'd be bad.
And you got to hope then that nobody gets hurt too, which we were blessed by no injuries last year. So then like you got to figure
on the pitching side,
shoe's gonna drop. So I wish we would have got a better arm. I wish we would have got something. I wanted to basically all I wrote in my notes was that his stats were completely underwhelming, and I wanted you guys to tell me why I should be excited, and none of you have told me why I should be excited. I should not.
I think James pointed it out. James pointed out why you should be excited is that there's a pedigree there. Like this guy is a guy who didn't pan out into what they expected him to be. But he was supposed to be very good. Reynaldo Lopez is a similar guy where like they thought he was going to be very good and he didn't quite pan out. And Ethan Katz is seen to get something out of him. So like, I don't take a look at Reynaldo Lopez and go like, I want him to be next up either. But at the same time, I'm less afraid if I have to get 4 innings out of Raylo because we had a doubleheader or something.
Raylo came around at the end of last year, though. I feel like he was providing some positive like signs.
That's what I'm saying. After working with Katz and like a guy who's a 4-seam fastball first guy, being in a dugout with Lance Lynn is not going to hurt him. So like there's an upside to this. We're just all very negative people, so we're going to tell you about the downside most.
It's not wrong.
It's like buying something cheap at the thrift store. My Sock Summer, and then you hope to get the value coming on that. That's what this is right here. So when you buy something on spec that you don't know what it's worth, but you're like, I haven't seen this. That's what the White Sox are doing right here. And sometimes that pans out and sometimes it doesn't. But I think on average, with Ethan Katz in place, if we believe in Ethan Katz, we should be doing these. And they're not always going to pan out, but on average, they're going to. Last year panned out to I don't know what Carlos Rodon had, a 5.5 win season or whatever. Sometimes that shit is going to happen because Ethan Katz is just good at doing this.
Have some faith in Katz. That's what I'm hearing. That's what I'm hearing. I like it. Why not have some faith in this guy? He's the new guy.
Giolito told us. He told
Rick
us.
Giolito yelled at us. He's good. He's good. Don't think he's not.
Right.
We say his name one more time, he's going to show up in the chat.
I hope so.
I'll bring him in the show. Fuck it.
Let's go, Papa G. Bring it.
I'll leave Papa G. Come on.
Now, let's talk about something that I have tried to recently be positive on, and people are like, well, no, you're a fucking idiot for thinking that positively about this. But so I wrote a blog about this beef a while back about what could you actually get for Craig Kimbrel, which I don't think is a lot. And I think that's kind of bearing fruit right now that there's not a lot you could get for him. There's maybe some people out there that can be traded for, but it's getting worse and worse in the trade market for trading Kimbrel. But you kind of look at this roster and think they don't expect him to be here opening day. So kind of where are you guys at right now with trading him? Who's out there to even as a trade partner? And then what do you think you could get? James, if you want to jump in.
Yeah, so they've never Rick Hahn has never talked about a player this openly, about getting rid of a guy. And it seems like it's super cordial and fine. And Kimbrel talked today and he's like, yeah, they're great. He's like, they're going to try to get me to a spot where I can close, essentially. I think they're just waiting and I don't know if they misjudged the market or, they didn't want to admit to sunk cost, I really don't think they want to eat much of the money. I think if they got a decent prospect and a flyer and somebody ate all the money, he'd be gone, I think already.
Yeah.
They would just take that. So I think if the offers are coming, I'm sure they have off. I mean, there's teams that want, I've heard the Dodgers or some West Coast teams, but are you eating?
You definitely want him, but
are you eating $5 million to get something?
Right.
And at that point, you have just buying the option and lived with the fact that your trade that looked awesome at the time didn't work out. So I would be stunned if Craig Kimbrel pitches another regular season game for the White Sox. He's. With what they've done and all the relievers they've added, Craig Kimbrel's gone. I think it's just a matter of where and if they can salvage anything. Is that where you're young backup catcher comes from, like in that trade. Like I don't know. Like, can you get a piece that can help you, or is it just going to be like 2 A-ball arms and the money's gone?
And that's it, right? Exactly. No, I really like your take there, James, because I think that is kind of the way it's right now. If they really wanted to, if they were motivated to trade him, they would have traded him already, but it would have cost them more than they probably want to do in this situation. Just kind of waiting for who is the right team that's going to step up and do this. And I think you're right. They'd love to free up the money, because when you look at how much they've already spent, and then you think, July 31st, they're going to want to add some stuff. I don't know what that stuff is right today, and I don't think they know what that is yet. But at that point, they're going to want to add some salary or whatever, and we're going to be brushing up against $200 million of real money, not CBT money, fucking real dollars. It's going to be $200 million of real. So, like, getting rid of that 16 feels like it's pertinent in this spot. One thing I was thinking about, Treasy, from your article, you've written a couple on this situation, and one, you were trying to handicap the different markets. So I figured we go real quickly through who you thought might be suitors for Craig Kimbrel back when you wrote this. And I think let's see, this was back in October, so it's been a while. So the Red Sox, do we still think the Red Sox could be in the market for a Kimbrel?
I don't know. I don't know that they're still looking right now, but if they are, that is a possible team. So
next up is the Nationals. I mean, I don't think the Nationals are trying.
No, that was kind of the question mark at that time. They had cleared out a bunch of salary, so it was, are they going to go out and use that? Like, are they going to go out and buy a bunch of players with the new kind of open funds that they have and try and build something up? And if so, would that be? But they haven't.
They haven't made a signing that we.
I mean, they signed Cesar Hernandez, but other than that.
All right. Next up is the Angels. They signed back Iglesias.
They signed Iglesias.
Out,
yeah.
So they're out of there. Next up is the A's you had in here. Okay, so the A's
are
going to.
The A's are.
A's payroll might not be $16 million all in for everybody.
The A's would take Kimbrel if we paid them $20 million to take him. That's the only way.
That's right. And then the Rays.
The Rays, I think, are still a contender in there, but like, I don't think that they would really trade us anything that of great value to us. Like, you can, if you want Austin Meadows, I assume you're going to have to give them some money, which they're not going to want to do. And then if you get Kevin Kiermaier, which is what I suggested there, is like, do you want Kevin Kiermaier? What does that really do for you? Like,
he's like redundant to Adam Engel. I mean, kind of, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the other. He's lefty, right? So it's like the other. It's a Engel platoon with Kiermaier. Like, I mean, whatever. Yeah.
The Rays have a really good farm system, right? Like, they can spot really good talent,
and they have a bunch of outfielders.
Listen, our farm, and James, you can tell me if I'm wrong. We don't establish what talent is in our farm system very well sometimes. Like, we seem to be missing the ball a few times, here and there. So can we just go with a team that does it well and maybe grab a couple of their guys and see if it works out?
That's not how the Rays operate, though. The Rays would give you someone that's in the major leagues that they're paying a lot of money to.
I know.
You take that because I'm going to move my guy in. They're not going to give you a prospect.
We can't flip the script. Let's flip the script.
I think the Rays were in at the deadline. I think they were one of the teams that was talked about for him before the Sox got him. And then, old friend Dave Dombrowski in Philly, hopefully he'll throw you a lifeline. That's what I was hoping. I was hoping that Dave would just get itchy and have to have Kimbrel again. But they've added a lot of relievers.
Yeah. Brad Hand is most recent, right? Yeah.
Yeah, but they've been adding the whole offseason.
And then the Dodgers they don't care. So they would probably, and Kenley Jansen's still a free agent. So I don't know.
I was going to ask this next. Do you think that's the shoe that's got to drop first?
Maybe once he signs, then there's like more clarity. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Is Jansen good anymore though? Like, I feel like I looked and he wasn't as good as he had been.
Not as good as he was. No, but
because he was like lights out before. He was like like Eric Gagne, like all the and then just like fell off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
He's
The Dodgers
not going to
replace Joe Kelly. So.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when I look at roster resource, like Blake Trinan is the closer right now for the Dodgers. Like they'll probably patch it together. I assume they have like Tommy Kahnle coming off of Tommy John surgery or something. They always have some sneaky guys coming. Like, you look at it's like wait a minute, how do they have that guy hidden on this roster? And then but they always got someone like that.
And they have 14 starting pitchers, right? Like I think they just re-signed Jimmy Nelson too. Like,
and then tonight they just signed Danny Duffy of the Royals too, the Dodgers.
Duffy who comes back like in the middle of the season, right?
Yeah. So he'll go sit on the IL, and then Treasy, the other teams you had were the Reds. They are also burning.
They're out. They're burning their way.
You had the aforementioned Phillies who have already filled a bunch of those spots, and then the last one you had was the Mariners.
I never count the Mariners out of anything.
The trade. Maybe he'll just want to make a. He'll be itching to make a trade.
That one could be possible. I think.
I think that could be possible too. They have Ken Giles in their midst right now, but I think he's not back to start the year, right? Isn't that the deal with Ken Giles?
I forgot all about Ken Giles.
He's hurt, but he's going to come back kind of a little bit later. So that could make some sense there. And they're trying to muscle up. They just made that trade with the Reds to get who they get, Winker and Suarez. So they're trying to add some depth to that team. So maybe it's them.
Well, they made a trade with the Padres too, right before they got Adam Frazier.
Yeah.
So like
Jerry will make another trade. He'll probably make 5 more trades.
That dude loves trading. Like he runs that place he runs that place like a fantasy baseball team, and I love it. Like I can't get enough.
I like when he makes like a super weird one, and then they're like, you'll understand like 3 trades from now, like what he's doing. You know, like,
exactly.
You're like 3 or 4 moves ahead. You'll get it finally.
Like I imagine him like one of those like commercials in the 80s where there's all the phones and they're like wrapped around the person.
Yeah.
Like I assume that's how he always is.
My Summer, can you sound off on that? Would you trade Craig Kimbrel for Lexington Steel?
First off, referring to Lexington Steel as a big bat power prospect, that is the vet, baby. That's a vet. He's going to give you all. He's got like a positive 69 WAR. All right, let's take it easy.
Yeah, that's.
Well, he traded what? Kendall Graveman in season, and everybody freaked. They're like in contention. He trades his closer for Abraham Toro or whatever that guy from the Astros, and he's like, "Guys, you'll get it soon. Trust me." Like, yeah.
Give me this part-time corner infielder for my closer. Yeah, it was very weird.
It's so entertaining though. Like I mean, like I wish there were a lot more GMs. Like I wish there were like I don't wish there were all GMs like Dipoto. I wish there were like 5. Like I wish there were just like 5 absolute wild cards that like at any moment, like they're always just on the list.
Preller's kind of nutty too.
That's true.
Yeah, he'll make some deals for sure.
I think they're out of money though. I think that he's kind of trying to get rid of like they have Hosmer and Myers and all guys, so
it's interesting to see what they're gonna do because I feel like they're still trying to. They are in on everybody according to like all the rumors. Mm-hmm. So you don't know what's actually happening. Are they trying to sign more people?
He's traded for Kimbrel before too.
Yeah, that would be a long time ago. That was a long time ago when they rebooted after that. It was like the Uptons. He traded for the Uptons. He traded for Kimbrel. He traded for everyone back then.
I don't want Will Myers for him. I don't.
No, so I will say before we move on to that's like my least favorite idea is like a straight like trade Kimbrel for another like bad contract right fielder or something like that I think that would be terrible.
No thanks.
There's I mean like at this point like it was funny though I was talking about this with Beef over the weekend. It was like I could see like I could see these like things when I like, kind of look at it and go like, oh man, if they traded with this team, then they could take a prospect from there and send it over here and get this guy back that we really want. And then I'm like, why wouldn't that other team just do that trade though? So like,
they don't need us in the middle.
Why do we get to be involved in that and throw a bad contract in there?
I wonder how likely it is that somebody's closer gets hurt in spring training, and then you're just like, hey, guess what? We have Craig Kimbrel.
Yeah. Here you go. Your first option. No, I was thinking that too. I was thinking maybe it's just a waiting game at this point, and it's you can't go out and say, yeah, we're waiting for someone to die out there, and then we'll then we got some leverage on this other team, but that might be the whole game here at this point.
That would be some tremendous Han honesty. Just being like, we're just waiting for someone to break their arm. Then
get that Jeff Galooty guy that kneecap Nancy Kerrigan go out and fuck up somebody's arm. Yeah, that would be awesome. Like he didn't get caught the first time. That's why I know his name. So we could probably Jeff Galooly again. You know,
Hans just tapping Dr. James Andrews' phone, waiting to see who's calling in there.
It's like the
I mean, there's a lot of guys in the neighborhood, Teresi and Loaf, you can attest to that would probably go break somebody's elbow to get rid of Kimbrel. Like, we don't have to go outside of the Gangster Sox fan base to get somebody. I mean, we gotta go outside too far.
Got to go take a trip down to Florida, feed someone to the Lions. That's what I'm hearing. My Sox Summer, you want to pay some bills, buddy?
Let's do it, baby. Goose Island has some delicious beer that you can find at your local bottle store or even the Jewels. We all know about the Black Friday Bourbon County Brand Stout release and 312 Day, which just happened. But do you know that Goose Island also has 2 tap rooms in Chicago? Yeah, they do. And you should get your ass over there to try some of that limited shit that is always fresh as fuck. Goose Island has 2 tap rooms, one at 1800 West Fulton Street and one at 1800 North Clybourne. If you just want to drink, hit up the Fulton. Hungry for a smash burger? Head to Clybourne. Both tap rooms feature the best beer Goose has to offer. So take an afternoon or an evening and enjoy that life. Goose Island beer. It's Chicago beer, baby.
Oh, I love it. I didn't know about the smash burgers up at Clybourne. I haven't been up to that one in a long time. Went to the Fulton one over the summer. Need to get back there.
You know, speaking of doing some gangster shit, you know, Shane's always talking about making smash burgers. Let's let him make some, then we'll rob his ass. How's that sound?
That's all
right. We got it.
So let's talk. So we haven't had a chance to sit down and talk about everything that came out of the new CBA, all the new rules, so like all the things that are changing. And so let's spend a little bit of time chatting on that. And so the first couple things I want to talk about are like we've got the new salaries, right? We've got the new minor league salaries for the 40-man, and then the arbitration bonus pool. So James, give us the lowdown on kind of what those changes kind of look like, and then like what you see those having an effect on kind of the overall structure of some of these teams.
Yeah, so I think it helps obviously, but like I thought the raising the minimum should have been like the number one issue for the players. Like that's like the easiest. If you raise it significantly, you essentially create like the floor that you're never going to get, right? Like you're never going to get a salary floor without a cap. And we could debate whether you'd want it anyway, because bad teams are going to find a way to lose and just take on bad contracts anyway. But I mean, if your minimum's closer to $1 million, I mean that essentially raises everybody else, and it just gives opportunity to players, right? So I was surprised that, I mean, it's like, what is it, $700K, which is still the lowest in all in the 4 major sports. I mean, that's like bullshit, but it's better. It's better than it was. So
right.
So like, you got your, like on the high end, like 230 luxury tax, like fine, like that number's fine, right. And then the number on the bottom, and then that pre-arb pool, I think the players were just ready to settle for anything because you had 0 before. So I'm kind of curious to see like how that works and like who that money goes to. I mean, the owners won again because they're going to win all the time, but the players got back a little bit finally. And I think they do want to keep they wanted to keep some stuff in their pocket for 5 years from now, I think, obviously. And I think that's part of the reason why, once it went to a vote, when I found out it was going to a vote, I was like, oh, this is over. Like they'll vote yes. Because you guys know, like, I've gone through union negotiations at school, and like, it's always yes. Because there's so many people that just like want to get back to work that it didn't surprise me at all that the board voted no. Because even like all 8 of those guys, like if they're going to be on the board again next time, now they can go to the table and be like, well, we didn't agree with the last CBA, so like we're not starting at where you started from, so
right. Yeah, it was 8-0 board against, and then it was like the player reps were like 26-4 or something like that. I mean, it was like
20, and you needed 20 votes only. So
so they got
it. So that was going to happen. I mean, as soon as it goes to a vote, I think the board probably knew it was going to pass, and they decided that they had gotten enough. I think, like being able to play 162 was huge. Beef, I think we've been, we talked about this a little bit. If it got much further, like it was going to be a long time, I think, because once you introduce once you introduce service time and pay into those discussions, like it's brutal.
Right.
So I think everybody just kind of was like, just take this for now, and then we'll get the 162. And
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
if they got to
it'll
the
be
true canceled game situation, see, they got the canceled game, but you kind of knew, okay, we're close enough where they're going to just delay the games. They'll fit them in.
Yeah.
But you're right. If they chop the real piece out of the season, then there would have been a big argument over, we want a full season worth of pay. And the owners would have said, fuck you. We're only going to pay you 140 games or whatever. And you're not getting 1 year service time. You get whatever, 0.86% or whatever the fuck. And so, yeah, you're right. That could have been a huge battle if it had gotten there. Like, thank goodness it didn't.
On the high end with the luxury tax, like, you know, it's a salary cap, right? I mean, when the number was 210, 2 teams blew past it, and a lot of other teams spent like 207 or 208, right? So, I mean, if the number's 230, those teams are going to spend 228 now. So that's an extra 20 million for the big spenders anyway, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, they are going to get, you got a little bit for both parties. I do think, I just thought the strategy was on the player side was a little bit weird sometimes. I wanted them to get everything they could. I just thought the minimum should have been the big focus, I think.
No, I agree with you. I think that's a great point of like how much getting the minimum moved up truly moves what everybody's going to make, as opposed to trying to get the CBT number like as high as possible, because only a small portion of teams are even going to come near that. So it doesn't truly matter.
Well, because who's losing, right? It's your mid-tier guys, like your guys that make 5 and 6 million, like those guys are screwed basically, right? Mm-hmm. But if your minimum was 1.5 million, well, maybe you wouldn't. Maybe you'd sign the $5 million guy instead, then, right? But, I mean, but you're gonna sign the 700K guy instead, because who cares? Like, it's like, we'll pay this guy 700K. We might not pay him 1.5 though. So
yeah, right. The delta between it is far enough where you're gonna just take it, and you'll live with 60 or 75% of the player for that much cheaper price for sure. You're gonna do that.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're listening to this and going like, what's the difference between 700K and $1 million? That's so much fucking money. You got to think about it in terms of a guy who's doing this for a living, right? He spent
$500,000. Yeah.
He's well, I mean, like even if you, but even if you think about it, like in terms of a single year, yes, I mean, like you could see the difference. But when you look at it in terms of, I'm actually spending 7-8 years to make this money because of the minor leagues, and my career's over after this. Mm-hmm. Like, I have to find a new career after this, because that is not enough money to live on for the rest of your life. Right. Like, so like people make that amount of money over 10 years. Right. And so like these guys are making that money over 10 years as well. And now they're, 27 years old, 26 years old, and they got to start a new career. So like that amount, that change and in money most of them didn't even graduate college.
Skills. Yeah, exactly. They have no skills. So you got to think about it that perspective, right? Their career has been baseball, and even when they were in high school, their career was baseball.
Their career was baseball.
Their career was baseball. So like that's brutal to just be thrown out there. It's like, fuck you, that's it. And you made kind of what the regular Joe Schmo would make, but they can keep going with their career. Like, people don't think about that shit.
They'll go right to enterprise, like most recent college graduates. Or when you're trying to build a career, you go right to enterprise, because you learn sales, you learn customer service, you learn how to get right to the next level.
Yeah, no free ads.
Hey, shit, you don't want to go there.
Yeah, you goddamn
it. Sharizi, I was disappointed that you were talking that you didn't fully understand, that the money would go up, like our man James was saying. If I learned anything about all the talk about fucking minimum wage increasing, I just knew everything was going to go up. It didn't matter what it was going up. So if you get the lowest guy higher, then it's just going to continue to go up and up. So that's it. Oh, I knew that. I'm surprised you didn't know.
I was unaware, but I love it. So one thing, we're talking about the minor league guys, and so one thing that did change was the allocations to them when you're on the 40-man. And like the 40-man roster has always been an interesting thing to me, because it's where you hide a lot of guys, right? Like, I mean, like there's a lot of guys on the 40-man roster that you're just keeping out of the Rule 5 draft, or that you're just kind of like, you're storing them there for the season. And so as that salary raises up, and like it's not a lot of money. I mean, like it's like the second year guys are getting in like the $100,000-ish.
Yeah, 114-1 for this year. Yeah.
And so I'm wondering though, are there teams that are going to be reluctant to put certain types of players there? And will it affect the Rule 5 draft? Like, are we going to see like certain positions that are not as valuable? Like, for example, like how long would a Blake Rutherford last on a 40-man roster as the salary for the 40-man person goes up? Like, is that something like, is it still so little money that no one's going to care? Or are there going to be teams that are going to be like, we're not going to keep this, left fielder on the 40-man?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why Blake Rutherford's on the 40-man now.
But $1 million question.
But I think a good example of what you're talking about is like Mike Rodolfo, right? Like back when the White Sox added him, he was like an A-ball. They added him to the 40-man because he had his 5 years up or whatever. And there were teams like the Padres that were horrible or whatever. They were just adding A-ball guys in Rule 5 and sticking them on their bad roster. So
yeah, they plucked 3 guys in 1 year.
Yeah,
and
so
held them on a major league roster when they had no business being.
So there was actually some risk, that guys would be on there. Like one of the White Sox prospects, Luis Mieses, he's taken forever. He's like a 21-year-old Dominican that's finally put it together a little bit. He was gonna be like eligible for Rule 5 this year. And while it's like, oh, there's no chance in hell somebody's gonna take him and play him in the big leagues. I mean, well, maybe the Pirates or A's or somebody would have, but like you're saying, if that money goes up, like that might be like the reason why you just say whatever, like we'll just leave him off, and if we lose him, we lose him. We're not going to pay him, that extra money to be on the 40-man. Essentially, the thing that really sucked during the lockout for those 40-man guys is like they weren't allowed to do like anything. So like minor league camp started.
Oh.
Jake Berger and those guys are in the union. So they can't even go to like minor league spring training.
It's such a weird, like,
they're most fucked basically.
Yeah. You're just kind of caught in the middle, right? Like you're not making major league money, but you have all the bad aspects of being a major leaguer, right?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and it's option. Then the only thing stopped is like you get the 3 years of options, and then you're off the 40 or whatever, So it's like Sebi Zavala, like 27 years old.
yeah, I mean, that guy is like, when I was looking at like trying to stretch the money that someone makes over a career in the major leagues when they don't really pan out, but they've made it to the major leagues. They're almost like a quadruple A type player. Like Sebi Zavala was one of the guys I looked at. I was like, oh man, like he's made like $30,000 a year. Like if he doesn't make the roster this year, like he has like almost a 10-year career in baseball. And like, we know who he is. We've seen him play. We've seen him hit 3 home runs in a game. We know who this dude is. And this guy has made, after that, it'll be like, I don't know, like $25,000 a year for like his 10 years or something. Like, so it's something insane.
He was a 12th round pick, so he might have got like $125K. I don't remember, like to sign on a.
Yeah, it wasn't much. His bonus was small enough that it made it like, oh man, you didn't really make much. Yeah. Danny Mendick's even worse because like he's like a 50 millionth round pick.
24th round or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So, James, one thing I wanted to talk about today, because I think you know a lot about this, and we know very little about this, which is the draft, and not only the draft in the United States and in Puerto Rico, but the draft, the international signing period, which is possibly becoming a draft. And I wanted to talk first about the draft lottery, but I do want to get into the international draft because I think that's a very interesting topic. But for the draft lottery, what does that look like? And when does that start? Like what's that going to be like?
So they just announced July's draft is All-Star Weekend, like the 18th or whatever. So it won't be this year because those picks are already done. So this season. And then for next year's draft, it'll start. It sounds like a 6-team lottery, but it sounds like every non-playoff team goes into the lottery.
Okay. So 18 teams.
Yeah. And that'll determine the top 6, and then it'll like go by record. And it's kind of like, if you with a team with the best record that missed the playoffs, you're like have a 1% chance or something. It's like it gets lower. So your top teams or your worst teams still have the best shot. I think it adds interest. I mean, I think like I'd turn it on and watch a draft lottery. Like that would be kind of cool.
I would
right?
too.
Like, yeah. But like how much it's gonna stop tanking, I don't know. I'm not sure.
There are some borders up too, right? Where if you're you can't be in there more than
you really
2
can't
years
do
in a
what
row or whatever.
you can't do what the White Sox did. You can't be like a big market team and pick top 5 like 3 years in a row or something,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like I don't know. Like when I first heard about the draft lottery, I thought that not only would it not stop tanking, I thought it would increase tanking. Just because like I mean, like if you're the worst team in baseball, you're guaranteed the number 1 pick, right? But if you're like the 7th or 8th worst team in baseball, like why would you not try to be the 6th worst team in baseball to get a chance at number 1? Instead of like
more teams will do that.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, like
and then it's a battle.
Well, I also think, James, to your point though, like again, like because one thing I was thinking about when we'll talk about the expanded playoffs in a little bit, but this is the only incentive if you're like kind of a borderline team to not go for it. Like there's a reason to not go for it because you could go like, I'm not going for it because I still have a chance at the number 1 overall pick if I don't make the playoffs.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see if like it means like Baltimore has the number 1 pick this year. Like, are they going to count this year for net? Like, can they pick 1 again next year? I don't know.
Oh, right.
I don't know. Like,
I don't have kicked out of that.
Right. Like, I'm not sure yet. But yeah, it's definitely going to be different because it used to be like, oh yeah, the Diamondbacks are picking 1. Like you'd know the final weekend. Like now you're not going to know. And some years there are like generational studs like going 1. So
right, but it's not all the time. So sometimes it's going to be really important, and sometimes people are going to be like, whatever. One thing I wondered, James, it wasn't clear to me. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say we don't know what was happening, so I consulted the Magic 8 Ball. James doesn't know the rule, and it said it is certain, so that they will be eligible. The Baltimore Orioles. So I just wanted to clear that up before we move on to the next thing. Okay,
we're not moving on. This is a question, but
I'm not moving on. It's a question directly.
Just move into his part.
So if you
shut the fuck up, Treasy.
If you get the number 1 pick, so let's say you draft lottery. Does the entire bonus pool go with that? Like, is it a bonus? Okay,
yeah.
so
I think
you're harvesting the pool, which is kind of the important part, even in the years when it's
important part.
Yeah, especially in the years when there's not a Bryce Harper as the number 1 pick. Like you need that pool.
So this is what I've always argued about, and people get mad at me because they're like, oh, it's a 2nd round pick. Who cares? Like, I hate the qualifying offer rule. Like, I think it kills guys' markets, and people don't understand why because it's just a 2nd round pick. But like, if you're the Cubs right now. Like, obviously, you would sign Carlos Correa. Who cares? Like, you would sign Carlos Correa, right?
Right.
But there's a legit argument to sign, like, a Michael Conforto when you're the Cubs and you have a top 40 pick in the 2nd round. Like, that's the pick you'd have to forfeit. It comes with $2 million attached to it. Like, that's, like, when you, like, drafts are about, like, the amount of talent you can get, like, throughout the whole draft. Like, not just that pick, right? And you get your whole bonus pool. So a lot of times, like guys play, you play games with your money and you try to get as many good players as possible. And when you give up the pick, you give up the bonus pool too. So I hate the qualifying offer rule, which goes right into the international draft. So that's.
I was gonna say, and to bring your point in here a little bit too, like people watch the NFL draft and they watch the NBA draft, whatever. Yes, picking at the top, you're getting like this premium talent, but there's a lot more variance in a baseball draft. So you want to have more picks of really good players, and that's why that pool part is important. And that's why, like, just punting a couple $1 million that you could send to someone in signing bonus is terrible because one of those guys might be one of the guys in your pool that make it. It's not like picking at the top of the NFL draft and you can get Deion Sanders or whatever, who's like a career-changing cornerback or some shit like that.
I think that Beef, a good way to describe the difference between those drafts is to go think about like the people you went to college with, right? And go like try and determine out of the people that you went to college with who's going to be successful. And now try and do that from your 8th grade class, right? Like, I mean, like
exactly right.
The variance is gigantic. There's a lot of work that's going to happen after one of those things to get to a certain point, right? And then in college, you'd be wrong a bunch too, but like you'd have a much better idea. You'd have a much better idea of it.
That's a great way to say that. I agree.
That's good.
So speaking of 14-year-old kids, let's talk about the international draft and what that could look like, but also like James, I'm an anti-draft guy. I don't like drafts in general. I wish there was like just a huge free agent pool, but we've talked about this previously, and like there's a lot of bad aspects to having that situation in the international market. So if you want to just tell us a little bit about kind of like why it's so bad right now, and then like how the international draft could kind of fix some of those things.
So yeah, I do want to preface it with like you said, like in an ideal world, like everybody's a free agent and you get to pick your own team, and like we do, right? Like you get to go out and pick your accounting firm or whatever, like whoever picks you, like you get to go work for. So it's not like that for these guys, obviously. And drafts suppress wages intentionally, like you have your bonus slots and whatever. So I get it. Like I get the initial pushback too. Like people are like, "Oh, a draft is stupid," but I feel like those people have no idea what's currently going on, like on the international market. So, back when Robert signed and Moncada signed, it was more of a free market where you could spend $30 million on a guy, and then you'd have to pay like a tax on it, and you could still get a guy. In the CBA in 2016, this was like a huge loss for the players, and I feel like they were just like, fuck it. Like those guys aren't they're not in the union. So like, what do we care? So they severely cap the system. It's in 3 tiers. The small market clubs get like a little over 6 million to spend. The Sox are a large market club. They usually get like right over 5 million to spend. That's it on your whole international class. So then, like you alluded to, you're down there scouting kids when they're 13 years old, and you're signing them to deals, and they're living with like trainers and just like living at their place, and then it's like, oh, they have an agreement with the Yankees, like hide him for 2 years so nobody else can sign him. Like it's gross and it sucks. And like Major League Baseball doesn't enforce the rules. I don't know how you would, but so the Players Association's always said like, we don't want the draft, just enforce the rules. And the cynical part of me is like, well, Major League Baseball is intentionally not enforcing the rules so they can say, oh, you know how we could fix this? International draft. But
they're pushing on the players.
But in this case, like an international draft would be much better than what they're currently doing. And I think like, even like Fernando Tatis came out and he was like, oh, you're going to take away these bonuses from these kids. Like, I don't think people read the proposal. Like the proposal was fine. It's a 20-round international draft. The first pick gets 5.5 million. And then, it just goes down after that, basically. Nobody's getting 5.5 million right now. Not one player. So, it was a pretty good system. I mean, the only thing they don't get to do is they don't get to pick, their team because of their colors when they're 14 anymore. That's, that would basically be the difference. So I don't know whether it's going to happen.
Well, exactly. I mean, they maybe could. I mean, they maybe could jockey for their team because the teams kind of know who they're going to pick or whatever. And you could say, hey, I ain't signing with you if you pick me. So there's probably a little bit of that.
Right. Like how much is that going to happen? Like we'll see. The other thing that I liked about it is like you're not going to be tanking for it because they were going to put teams in like pods of 6 and like rotate the picks through like every 5 years or something. You'd pick like top 5. Yeah. So in regards to if it happened, like in regards to the White Sox, like they wouldn't be able to corner like the Cuban market anymore. But they don't do a very good job like with teenage like Dominicans.
Dominicans. It's true. Yeah. It's true. Yeah. They haven't harvested many. I mean, like, even like people vestige of the last kind of group of international guys, like who's a 2-win player that came. Yolmer Sanchez is a 2-win player, but he's Venezuelan. Yeah. Like he's not even Dominican. Like they don't get many very many Dominican kids.
And it's to the earlier point of like, oh, they won't get to pick their team. Like I wonder how much they're actually picking their team as opposed to like a trainer or Buscaglia or whoever it might be that is like telling them this is who you're signing with.
Pretty much,
like you look at My Sox Summer. We talked about this, like guys like even Tatis, and then but like guys like Yerman who were, they were getting like loans from people and like being part of their salary for the rest of their lives goes to these guys, things like that. There's so much like that going on that like any way that you could kind of clean that up, like seems like a win. I feel like I'm almost getting backed into like the draft is better because it's just so fucking horrible. But like,
I'll bring you back, Treasy. I got a question in a minute.
But at the end of the day, it's like there has to be something else. Like there has to be a different version of this, no matter what they come up with. Like, I don't see them getting a worse version. That's the kind of where.
No, I think the best system is the old system, and the owners found a way to like get the players to agree to get rid of that because, like Jerry Reinsdorf is probably one of the guys that hated it because, like an AJ Preller takes over in San Diego and he's like, we're going to be terrible. I'm spending $85 million on international teenagers. Whereas like other owners are like, yeah, I'm never doing that. So certain guys don't want to do that, but they also don't want other people to be able to do it either. So then now you have this cap system that sucks. So I think they have till July to agree to it. And if they don't agree to it, then the qualifying offer system stays, which would be a travesty. So
Right.
I hope like the players come to their senses. Like I get it. Like when you're on that board, those guys like Max Scherzer probably doesn't give a shit about this, right? But when you have so many, Dominicans and Venezuelans like on your teams and on your 40-man rosters that are this opposed to it, I get why they said no. But I hope they like have discussions about it and they're like, look, like this time it actually probably does make sense going forward.
I think the problem to me is that like if you go to the draft, you never get out of it.
You can't get it
and
back.
So like,
right? You cannot get it back.
The ideal state is absolute free market. I just wonder if that's even a path. Like if that's even an option. And if it's not, then like I do feel like I feel like the players must feel in these negotiations where you're just kind of like beaten down and you're just like, well, let's take the thing that's the worst bad, like the least bad thing. I'll take that.
Well, I have an issue with like Christian Vaquero. He's a Cuban. He was 16. He was like one of the top players on the market, signed with the Nationals, like 4.8 million or something, right? And he's going to be on top 100 lists in a year and a half. He's going to be awesome. Well, his high school counterparts, a little bit older, 2 years older, are getting $8 million in the regular draft, and he's getting under 5.
He's getting screwed.
So it's like that sucks. So while the international draft is, I mean, it is like the number one pick I said is 5.5 million. That's not great either, but it's better than what that guy's making now, like whoever that ends up being. So,
right, it's better than what the top guy is getting currently in this situation.
Like Oscar Colas is 23. He took 2.7 million from the Sox because I think they were like, hey, this is like kind of what we have left. Like, do you want to play for us? And it was okay. Whereas like if that dude's the 5th pick in an international draft, he's probably making at least 4 million, like over 4,
Right.
So,
yeah, it's very different money.
So why does a guy like Tatis, and this is and Treasy alluded to it, and that was when we were in the chat and that was brought up about Tatis saying that. I was like, this guy mortgaged his future like in this draft. So why is he protecting something like that he clearly wasn't okay with? Like,
that's
solid.
So that's where I said, like, when I joke that, like, I don't think people read it. Like, for some reason, I think they feel like they're going to get drafted and, like, not get a bonus or something. Like, it's absurd. No, you're still getting – because the way he said it, it was kind of like, oh, these kids deserve bonuses. And it's like, well, they're still going to get bonuses. You're just going to get chosen by someone. That's the difference. It's the difference is you're going to get chosen by
I think what it is – so I think about this a little bit. And I don't have a strong position. I'm with Treasy. I generally don't like drafts, but I'm not totally opposed in pro sports. I get it. 2 things here. One, I thought it was odd, or maybe not odd. It was a position to like push the morality on the players when the owners could just stop being bad actors and stop recruiting 13-year-olds.
Yes.
It's on you. Like, hey, you're the one signing the checks. Stop doing that, asshole. But there's also a second layer here that I was curious about, and like my Sox summer brought it up. And so I think kind of the way the Dominican players are thinking is a lot of money goes into the Dominican to create this whole situation. There are baseball camps. There are teams that are very invested that are putting a lot of money into the whole economy down there, right? And so what happens when you grind it to a halt in some ways, right? When teams don't have an advantage themselves by having their baseball academy or whatever, because they can't get the first in on a player, it's just open. Hey, here's a draft. You're structured. And so fuck you, Yankees. If you've built up a big thing down there or Rays or whatever teams that build up a lot in those situations have built those relationships or whatever, you're picking 18th. So you're not getting any of these top players that you would normally get. And I wonder how much the players actually do have some foresight in that's all going to pull back. That's going to be pulled back now. And it's going to be, yes, the individual player might get a couple peanuts more than they normally get, but the overall economy might not benefit the way it has been benefiting from this. And so it's not a look of, player X, who's a superstar, is going to get more money. It's all these people's families are getting fed. Like, I wonder how much that is the view of the players. It's not been said explicitly, but like, you look at how much some teams have real good relationships down there and have academies and everything, and some teams don't give a shit. Like the Orioles don't hardly participate, right, in the international market.
Well, like the Rays probably do not want this,
right?
Because like they do an awesome job, and it's kind of like what you said. I think that was like the main point of David Ortiz went really strong against this. And I think that's what he was saying. I think, and I don't know what the answer is. Like if you give a kid $4 million from Dominican, like how much does his owner, or trainer, like how much of that does that guy get?
Trickles down, right?
And how much would that guy get like in this system? Like how much does that change like the whole thing, right? Like are they still being like taken out of school as 11-year-olds and living in academies? Like, I don't know. I don't know how that stuff changes, but what they're currently doing really sucks.
does like having like the MLB like now starting to pick up the tab for a lot of minor league players, like in putting money into their training and their housing and all that stuff. Can we just do that down in the Dominican and like a fair thing versus, hey, we're really good at this and like now everyone will benefit because everyone will benefit from the draft. So, like, shouldn't we all just pay for it? Like, I don't know.
So every team has an academy, but they usually don't have players there, like, until they're signed, like, with them. So, or, like, if you got, like, Oscar Colas, like, if you sign a guy for, like, the next year or whatever, I think they can, like, live at your academy and play on backfields or something, but they can't be, like, a member of your team. It's, like, weird stuff. So, like, all these clubs are down there already. Yeah, it's just a matter of how much it would like change that economy. It's going to be interesting. I don't know.
So you're talking about like before they're even like signed.
Oh yeah, they're like living with
like stuck into places,
random trainers and stuff. Oh yeah, they're like pulled out of their homes and scouted.
And I can't wait to see the real sports on some of this shit.
And that's what
like the jockeys.
There's an economy for this. There's this a lot of money goes into, and whether it's above the board or not, there's money going into these areas. And people are living off of this money. And so like, and I don't want to limit it to just like these bad actors that are running these shady academies or things like that. Like some of these things are above board. Some of the people involved are very, good meaning and they're doing things for these kids. So like, but that money is nevertheless getting pushed in there. Will that money stop when it's simply a draft? And I think that's the thing that you have to be wary of.
They were talking about like some sort of official draft combine for international guys, at when they're 15 or whatever, they can go, and everybody gets to go see them. So then if you have like a top 20 pick, who you're taking. And so that would be like that would be like a big change. So, I don't know. I don't know whether they're gonna do it or not. The league really wants it, obviously, and they, that was the other thing. Like I think a lot of people thought like they just sprung it on the players at the last minute. I think it was something that was discussed the whole time, but they knew that there was other stuff that was like way more pressing. So like we didn't hear about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, just honestly, thinking about like draft combine for 15-year-olds just sounds so ridiculous that it's just like. But I mean that. Yeah. It's what's happening now. It's not like
it's the reason why like a lot of these signings don't work out, because you sign some kid that you think is, whatever, like 14 years old, you agree with them, right? And now they're 6'9" all of a sudden, like they're not playing shortstop anymore. Like, you're like,
O'Neal Cruz is staying at shortstop. All right, James. All right, I'm sorry. He's staying there.
Oh, shit. We guessed way wrong on this guy. Or like, they finally sign and they're fat, or whatever. And you don't know. That's why Ben Badler stopped ranking players at Baseball America. He just ranks them by signing bonus because he just like thinks it's not fair for him. Like, he doesn't know. He's like, I don't know. I haven't seen him in 2 years. Yeah.
They're fat.
So, hey, Loaf, should we give James a question that's in the chat? Because I think we
Yeah,
should.
you want to give him that question?
We never
Put it up
get
there.
baseball related stuff. It's usually like Juan Reeves Cup asking me what flavor of edible underwear I like. I think this is a
Which
great,
is valid. I'm not saying
Oh yeah, of course, it's strawberry, but still, like, make sure we do this. So from Wolf Waldo, it's this question for James: are teams allowed to trade international draft picks? And is Jerry going to make Han trade picks like he did when he traded international bonus pool money to Texas in 2019?
Good question.
This guy probably knew this was going to trigger me, I think.
It's a plant in our comments.
Yeah, so I will say, like, the last 2 years, they like froze spending or whatever, so teams weren't allowed to trade money or trade for money. So that was a little bit different. But yeah, in the proposal, it said like you could trade international draft picks and the bonus pool slot that would like go with it. So so that would be another thing where it's like, if you're the Pirates or whatever, and you're trading a guy at the deadline, like it's like, oh yeah, we'll get your 2nd and 5th round picks in the international draft next year or whatever. That could just be like another, like if you could trade regular picks, that would be awesome.
That would be great. I would love that if they could do that.
Yeah,
they really should change that.
I do feel like we root for a team that would just like get rid of picks all the time, and that would be
yes,
like
100%.
Watching them pick, I'd be fine with it.
most years, yeah. I still got hope for Andrew Vaughn. I think Andrew Vaughn's
I do like
when you pick 3, like I would
should get a good guy, right?
We got one more question. No, I'm just
Jack, I said strawberry already. He said strawberry.
Strawberry.
Get the potatoes out your ears. All right.
There is one last topic I want to get to on the new rules that I think is interesting, and we alluded to it earlier because of the amount of teams that would be available for the lottery, but the playoffs are expanding. So not to the 14 team, which we're not going like NBA and hockey where half the teams get in, but 12 teams, and so now we're getting to a point where a good portion of teams are getting in. So I wonder from you guys, like, what do you think that effect will be? Like, what do you see happening? What are some of the things you're going to see maybe in this free agent class or in the trade deadlines, things like that? James, do you see anything moving differently because of the expanded playoffs?
Yeah, I think there will be less sellers. I'm a fan of this. I completely understand the people that aren't. And think that like the top teams are just going to spend less because like who cares and we'll just get in because it's a crapshoot anyway. Like I get that perspective completely, but I hate like there's years where you got 5 your 5 teams are in and like nobody's trying because it's like and it's like July so
right.
Like last year when you have the Dodgers and Giants and Padres in one division, like if you're the Phillies and you're 6 games out of the East, like who gives a shit, so. I do think this, like with 6 playoff spots, like hopefully you have 10 teams in each league trying for the 6 spots, instead of maybe 7 trying for 5, So I do think it's going to impact deadlines, I think, a lot because I don't think there's going to be as many sellers. So I think so that part's probably going to change. I think we've already seen some weird transactions too, and like the Twins, like what are the Twins doing? Like so
we don't know.
So I don't know if you have teams that are just going to try to like be decent and then let's see, right? Like 100 games in, we're decent. We weren't expecting to be like maybe they try to push for a wild card or something.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the 2 examples that I don't really like, but like one is the Cubs, like where they're just they're filling some spots and they're doing some things, and you're just like, well, they're not even going to have that high of a payroll, but if they get on a run, if the other teams in their division aren't really going for it, or if someone falters, they're kind of in a position where they could make something happen. The Royals are another team where they seem to be moving things around, trying to put something together, and like that's problematic. The Royals is problematic for the Sox. The Cubs, problematic just for my mind. But like it's you could see teams that are in bigger markets trying to go, okay, I'm going to spend just a little more this year and then see if I get close. And if I don't, then shit, I'm still in the lottery. If I hit, then I'm going to the playoffs, and then we'll see what happens in the playoffs.
Well, what do you think? Like the argument against, and Beef, I didn't know where you stood on that. Like the argument against it obviously is like, your top teams, like, oh, why would I add that extra guy when I could win 93 games instead of 99 games and still get in and still have the same, you know what I mean? So the fear is that the good teams tried less. I don't know if that's gonna bear out, but I guess we'll see.
I don't know how true. So I agree with you. That is the argument. I've thought about that a little bit too. I don't know how true that'll actually be because preseason is when you're setting your payroll. You don't know what's going to happen when you actually get into it. So you may still be just as aggressive kind of at the top of the – unless you're in weird situations like the Sox are currently in or like they were in last year where you're like, you pretty much have this locked. You might not try extra hard, but those aren't always there. My position on this is like I would be okay with expanded playoffs if they do it the right way and give appropriate advantage to the division winners. The way I'd like to see it is, let's say we were going to, so right now it's 12, but even say they were going 14. Let's say they stuck with the 3 divisions on each side. The 3 division winners on each side, they're going to go to the, divisional playoff round. The rest of the group has got to play like pool play. They got to do either a round robin, a double elimination, or like beat the next team. So if you finish 7th, you play 6th, that's single elimination, losers out. Go play the 5th team, losers out, like that sort of thing. If they did it sort of like that, where you gave the division winners, so you keep the incentive of like building a really good team to ensure you win your division. So only in those rare cases where you got a runaway division where teams will not try at the top, but it's still worth being in the thing because if you get out of that little pool, I mean, you got as good a chance. I mean, you get to the playoffs; these things are close to coin flips generally. There are some examples when it's like there's an overmatched team, but just getting to the playoff is important enough. So I would like to see it that way. I don't like the idea of like the 3-game playoff for the second best record, and they've got to play the team with 82 wins. So like you're second best in your conference, and you won 99 games, and you got to play the team that had 83 wins, and then you could be out just out of variance. I don't love that.
I like I think what's fine and what's a good compromise is when we're doing the 12 team, right, which is we're doing now, the two best division winners are going to get that bye, right? And so then and then you have the other teams playing, and now that kind of gives a little more incentive to that that team that should have their division wrapped up, right? That they need to still need to push, right? They still need
top 2 seed,
right, because the top 2 seed is that important.
When they were talking about the 14 team, I love the ghost wins idea. I think that's awesome.
Oh, that would work. That would work fine. Yeah, exactly.
Like you get a free win like to start. Yeah. Like I think that would be cool.
The only thing I didn't like about that, James, is that I thought they sold it terribly. Calling it a ghost win like made everybody hate it, and you could have just been like, it's double elimination for the team that's in.
You have to win 2, and they have to win 3, basically.
Yeah, and like if you say it that way, like somehow it feels different, but it's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it's no different at all. I know.
Well, people don't like spirits, Teresi. It's not Halloween.
They're afraid of ghosts.
We're in March.
They're afraid of ghosts.
It could just rub somebody the wrong way.
They're not Ray Parker Jr. I'll tell you that.
Right. I mean,
they're definitely afraid of ghosts.
Made a mint on
that.
Well,
I'm not somebody that I didn't like the wild card games.
When they had
the one-off.
So like I enjoyed.
no.
So I enjoyed watching the baseball game.
Oh hell yeah!
But I don't think like that's a good way to solve anything because anybody can get beat like one time. Like it's
but
weird shit can happen, right?
Here's the deal, James and Loaf and Teresi. Since I seem to be the only one on this side, it's like if you want rule changes or you want something, I don't feel as though like the purist mentality of hey, 162 games means something. Serious, like you can say that anymore. Like you have to be like, we have to be willing to adjust the purist mentality of baseball, which I think it's hard because it's hard to sell this game. I think, and they're like, why don't we have young people coming in? It's like because sometimes it's really fucking boring, and you have to have a level of concentration to watch baseball. I can't watch baseball till about the 7th inning. I'm usually nice and mellow and chill after about 6-7 Goose Islands, and I'm like, I can sit and focus and watch this game at this point. Like it's not easy for a kid. It's not easy for a teenager who's used to being like tickle the undercarriage on these guys all the time, to like get them excited to watch a sport. I don't know. I'm like, I understand what you're saying. It cheapens a lot of the regular season. It cheapens like spending more to get that 5-game edge that will put you into the playoffs. But if you want some excitement, because the 1-game playoff is very exciting, the playoffs themselves are exciting. It would be more fun that way. Maybe you shorten your season up, like we've talked about before.
There
right?
we go.
You kick all the games out of April that nobody goes to anyway. Fuck it. And then you just move forward, and then it seems a little bit more smooth, right?
No, MFS. I got no problem with
MFS. Yeah, my fucking summer, baby.
I got no problem with what you're saying. I think it, but what I would say differently is that I still don't like the 1-game playoff. But if I want the best teams to be in it at the end, then I would say I'm fine with let's call it a 140 or 150 game season to figure out who the playoff teams are. And then we're going 7-game series all the way through, right? You gotta
awesome.
win. You gotta win 4 to get to the next round. I would love that. That's what I would love. And I would give up 10 regular season games, 15 regular season games in a heartbeat to have that style of play.
Oh, the owners would love it too, by the way.
I would
that'd be so fun, right? Yeah.
I don't necessarily agree with the not liking the 1-gamer though. If both teams have played the same amount, like if you're pulling a full length of a season and you've both tied, like you're playing the 1-game.
No.
What's wrong with that?
My issue is like last year. Like if you're the Giants and or the Dodgers and you win 102 games, like in your second in your division, and now you have to like run into Corbin Burns in a wild card game. It's like Jesus, it's like it's like
seems like you've earned a little more rope on this thing, winning 102.
MSS, if you're talking about tied going into the playoffs in the game 163, which they're getting rid of, which
they're actually dumping that. Yeah,
like I agree. Game 163, 100%. That is an exciting game that deserves to stay, but getting into the playoffs and then saying the wild card is a single game is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous because let's put it this way. Take any team that made the playoffs in 2016 and put them against the White Sox of 2016 for a 1-game playoff. We got Chris Sale starting. Like there's no reason. And obviously we all love the White Sox. The White Sox did not deserve to be in the second round of the playoffs in 2016.
No, I get you.
Allegedly.
What was the year? Did Jake Arrieta beat the Pirates, I think, the one year?
Yes, and they had like 99 and 98 wins.
Yeah, the Pirates might have won a 5-game series, but they weren't beating Jake Arrieta. Like,
correct.
So.
Yeah, because Jake had like a non-existent ERA in the second half. Like, all that
Pilates, all the Pilates.
He was Pilates dominant.
I have a question for you. Did you guys see the 2023 schedule and do you like it? I think it's awesome.
Oh, okay, so they got rid of the unbalanced. They went back to you're going to play everybody, and then you're going to play your division less. And I actually don't mind it now that the White Sox are coming out of our division blows portion of the thing, because the Royals are coming up a little bit, Tigers are coming up. I like it because I like seeing as someone who goes to I don't know 70 games a year. I like seeing teams that I don't normally see and kind of getting some like you're with me, White Sox, all right? Some players 100%. Up close. I want to check these guys out. Let's do it.
Well, I think
I don't want to watch the fucking Twins again. Give me the let me see somebody new.
That's right.
Now we have the same rules too. It's like you play everybody.
Yeah,
I like that.
I
and it's
love
be like a home and home, right? Like it's gonna be like like if you play the Mets at home 3 games the one year, then the next year you're going to play 3 there. That's how they're going to do it.
Yeah, then you got to go to City the next year. Yeah.
And they're doing 2-2 for your rival.
Yeah, right? So I think it's 54 against the division, 60 against the rest of the American League, 4 against the Cubs, and then 42 against the other 14 teams in the NL.
I was cracking up though at some of these rivalries.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I was like,
Yeah,
so like obviously, like Cubs and Sox are one, Mets and Yankees, and then the Padres and Mariners. That wild rivalry.
They're like 1,200 miles away.
Like
Is
it's
it
like
the
you guys
Rays
are in
and
the same
Marlins?
time zone. You rivals, you.
We're the Rays and Marlins rivals. Is that what it is?
Who is it? The
The
Braves.
Rays and Marlins.
Oh, the Rays and Marlins.
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
5,000
that
people there watching.
Big rivals.
5,000 Yankee fans there.
They can all go to the same bar beforehand.
and most of the people at the bar will not be there to watch baseball.
No.
But yeah, like I like that. You know what else I like about it is that like instead of having to kind of wait years to say, oh, I'm going to go to this park.
Oh yeah.
Like every year there's an opportunity, and you're just going to have to see, is it a good time for you to travel, right? Like, and so like, because it's like Pittsburgh, for example, is a place that I've been, like I've wanted to go, but we only play them every so many years.
Yeah,
and then if it doesn't work out, I'm not gonna make it, and then it's gonna be more years before I get another opportunity to go see the Sox there. So like there's having it every year makes it a lot easier to hit the ballparks that you want and see the team that you want to see, right? Like I could go to any of these parks, I guess, any time of the year and see two teams play. That's fine. But like it's if I want to go see the Sox play one of these teams, instead of taking many years to go see it, I get it every year and I get a chance.
Barry Bag of Donuts has got to be going nuts because it's like, yes, I can go
likes hitting all the ballparks, right?
every year. Yeah, he wants to hit them all, so he's very close.
I love that. I'm not very close. I actually I finally hit Camden Yards this past year for a Orioles Braves game. No idea at the point that the Braves would be in the World Series, but absolutely sure that the Orioles were not going to be in the playoffs.
James, what did you like most about PNC Park? I haven't been there, but everyone is like, "Oh, it's so awesome!" Like my favorite park is like literally 3 blocks away because I can stumble up and I can stumble back. So like, I don't know how you're going to beat what I have here, but like, what was the selling point at PNC?
So it's similar to Sox Park where there's like a lot of room to walk around, but it's like a minor league. It kind of has like a minor league ballpark feel. Like I like it. I like the food. I just like that town. You can like walk everywhere. It's actually like Pittsburgh like has that are Pittsburgh's kind of like Bridgeport, like in certain spots. It's like cool. It's just there's like a lot of like hipster spots, and it's
nice.
There's no sales tax on anything. It's badass. Like,
nice. Damn.
But so everybody always says if that's your favorite park, then San Francisco would be your favorite if you made that trip.
Yeah, except it's $1 million to do anything in Francisco.
Yeah.
The hotel stay is more than your mortgage. Good luck.
All right, James, it was great having you tonight, man. We really appreciate you jumping on. This was a lot of fun and a lot of good information here. I actually, unlike our normal podcast, I feel like I learned something tonight. I appreciate that.
Well, normally on our normal podcast, you learn you're an asshole, but tonight you actually really learned some stuff.
I knew that all along, but I feel like James, as an educator, you did come on and educate us, and I appreciate it.
Appreciate it, James.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me. It kept me from the festival of missed jump shots, so that's good.
Yes.
All right, James, we'll talk to you soon, man. Thank you very much.
When your kid gets older, Peppa Pig Land, good time, man. I'm telling you, it's definitely worth a little bit of price for admission, but my 3-year-old, almost 4-year-old went nuts. Loved it. About 30 minutes in, was running around like she owned the place. Loved it. So it was good.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, James.
Bye.
That was fun. That was really good. It was really good.
It was good.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, that was really good. Good Sox discussion, good rules discussion for sure.
All right.
You know half that shit existed. I'm glad I know now.
Time for some thank yous. Beef, I'll start with you, buddy.
I'm gonna thank Bonita Steaky first for making me a series of weapons to destroy you guys during the podcast.
Kill you.
I really love. I'm gonna thank our guest James Fox, of course, for bringing the knowledge and extremely thoughtful knowledge too. he'll argue the side against himself first, and then like tell you, okay, this is what I really think that. Which I like that. I like that approach there. And I'm going to thank you guys for standing behind me, supporting me after I got my ass whooped in the 108 tourney in the first round.
I will take some thanks. First of all, I want to say shout out to Sammy Davis Jr. 5000, who keeps doing a recap of like every matchup in the 108 tournament and like saying something about it, like who he's going to vote for. That takes a lot of time and effort, both of which I do not have. So I appreciate that somebody goes out there and throws that out there. I appreciate people that have made the tournament, that are continuing to make videos, make content, put it out there. Like it's something that's so minor. Like people don't realize what goes on in the backside, but like on the backside, our interactions, our impressions and stuff is what helps like make this thing bigger and get us more resources, and then allows us to continue to do stuff like this. So like making a fucking video in a stupid fan tournament like helps pay bills. Like it really does. Like yes. It's something that like no one really sees. Like you can understand like the show thing, right? You can understand or a shirt thing. I'm sorry, buying a shirt. Like okay, I understand where this comes from, but like providing a content in a digital medium is just so huge. So thank you to all those guys, and I know. That takes time and it takes effort to do that. So good job. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I want to thank everybody that's been voting, that's been participating. It's been a lot of fun. 108 tourney every year. I dread it coming up to it, and then as soon as we get into it, I just fall back in love with it, and so it's been incredibly fun. I've really enjoyed kind of everything that's been going on with it. And I want to thank the folks over at CHGO who are going to have us on tomorrow night. So tune into that. It's going to be on around like 5:15 or something in the afternoon. I'm going to see how much they'll let me drink on the show. Well, I don't know.
Drink off camera.
I don't know how that's going to go. I'll probably have a shirt on, but maybe not. You don't know what's going to happen. So make sure to tune in. We'll see what happens. But I do appreciate that they reached out to us. It's a wild card to have us on so early in their
yes, I know. Could burn down the whole thing. They don't even know what's going on over there.
So yeah, I mean, like getting a silver daddy like me on there, it could be a big ratings boost, but it comes with some risk. So I appreciate them, and I do thank them, and I thank all of you for tuning in. I mean, we got both the recap show and this, and I saw quite a few people on here and a lot of people commenting. I appreciate all you. Thanks, everybody. We will talk to you very soon.